U.S. Bank. Professor Gerald Steinberg, president of NGO Monitor, says it's inaccurate to say that B'Tselem human rights group videotape was responsible for the investigation, which led to today's conviction of Elior Azariah.
This is not really an NGO issue, and despite the claims that are made by B'Tselem and other organizations, the entire process began not with the video, but with the actions on the ground. As soon as Elior Azariah took his gun to the head of the terrorist, the commanders on the ground reprimanded him and immediately began to question, and that led to the initial investigation of the process. So I think that it's a mistake to attribute this to NGO action, but it's in some ways exactly the opposite. NGOs make allegations, accusations, sometimes anonymous, sometimes attributable, sometimes with videos that are edited, sometimes without. There's no court process. Here we had a court process from beginning to end. Soldier was given a completely open and fair trial, and he'll also be able to go through the appeal process. Evidence was presented. It was a very long and detailed verdict assessing the claims that were made on his behalf and the evidence that was presented. It's exactly the opposite of the kind of allegations and claims and convictions and campaigns that NGOs run.
We heard people outside the courthouse today. I don't know how representative this is of the overall population in Israel. People saying, I'm not sending my kids to the army anymore. I don't know. They're going to be uncertain as to whether they can react and shoot a terrorist because of the precedent that they say this sets.
We've had this before, and this makes it sharper. Usually the military has been able to keep out of this. But there have been certain instances, and it's becoming more common, where the military is at the middle. The withdrawal from Gaza that took place that the military implemented put the army in the middle of this tremendous controversy. Also, the issues of almost came to be the movement of the houses in Amona would have led to a similar confrontation. So it's very awkward for the army to be placed in the center of this kind of public controversy. It probably could have been handled better. The main actors involved in this are no longer in the positions of being chief of staff or defense minister. We have different people now involved in it, and I think there is an effort made to lower the tones. And as a member of the Knesset, Victor Lieberman was very angry about the trial and the process and supported Azariah. Today he said that while he doesn't like the legal decision, he says we have to respect the court process and what the court decided. So I think there is being an effort made to diffuse a lot of the anger that takes place. The Army is a very special institution.
Yeah, but what do you do, Gerald, about the comment made just one day before the verdict by the man at the very top, the chief of staff, which angered a lot of people, in which he basically said you can't use that slogan, a child of all of us, to describe Elior Azariah?
He was defending and implementing what has been our standard Army policy. He has to do that. That's part of his job. And I think that the chief of staff represented what is the Army position, that when you become a soldier, you have to play that role of being a soldier. And it's very difficult for individuals, for parents, to accept that when you're an 18, 19-year-old, you're giving up your child to this institution, this in some ways faceless institution, this very hierarchical institution. But that's the way armies are like that. They're unique institutions. They're very problematic. And we've seen that in other countries as well. And in Israel, it's particularly sharp because of such a large rate of participation in the military. But there's really no other way for a military to function. And in some ways, this trial process gives the military leadership a chance to restate what should have been something much clearer, that when you're in the Army, you have to follow the Army regulations, not your family regulations, not your inclinations, your personal ideology, all of those things. You have to be part of the military hierarchy. You don't use your weapon unless you are in a situation where it is absolutely required, and that's what this trial was really all about.
Professor Gerald Steinberg, president of NGO Monitor. One more word about this.